Hey, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we are playing the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's the first one out of the standalone game Final Fantasy series. And basically this covers a good chunk of the original game. This is currently right now PlayStation 4 exclusive. It's being of course played on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro to be more specific. And yeah, there's a sticker on it. It says PlayStation exclusive to like April of next year or so. So I imagine it'll come out on the PC and at least the Xbox at some point. I don't know if the Nintendo Switch can handle this game, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, it's pretty crazy that for the longest time I was like, the PlayStation 4 for whatever reason doesn't seem to handle the Unreal Engine 4 that well, or at least they don't program well for it, and this game completely blew me away. This game looks really nice. Granted, there are some games like Hellblade and Street Fighter V, but that's simple. It's like a fighting game. A lot of fighting games use this engine. And Borderlands 3 was a pretty good looking game, but this is pretty impressive. And this actually runs on a higher resolution than most. Of course, you won't see it on this. This has, when I record, I have to obviously record in 1080p. Sorry, I just had a cup of coffee to do this, so I'm a bit high strung, but I really wanted to record a video while I had the energy, and now I'm just like really wired. But anyway, in order for me to record, I have to do it 1080p, and with everything going on in the world and people being stuck at home, like, I think YouTube's kind of lowered their quality settings, or whatever you want to call it. Basically my videos have been coming out looking like shit, even though after I'm done rendering everything it looks pretty good, and then when I see it on YouTube it looks awful. Hopefully YouTube still has the main file and they don't permanently put it in the lowest quality possible. Hopefully when things eventually hopefully go back to normal, or as normal as they can be, YouTube just has a setting where they're just displaying on lower settings and they can lift it higher. But I've even seen on more popular channels, and maybe my internet's just slow, maybe it's a regional thing, I don't know, but like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Disney Plus, like, I can stream at 4K with HDR no problems, but then YouTube kind of looks not the greatest. And I know for sure they throttled the download speeds on PlayStation Plus, and even though they said they wouldn't do it online, I noticed that like my little internet ping time or whatever, when it was showing, I'm trying to think what I was trying to play online. I think I was trying to play Call of Duty Warzone before I deleted it or whatever. But this is definitely, even though it's like part one of a series, it's hard to explain. You can't think of it like as like the Telltale games where they're released episode per episode and it like doesn't feel complete until you play every single episode. These are more like standalone games where like the other, even though the original game was one full game with like the whole story, where this is just part of the story. But it, I guess the games will feel more like sequels, because this is a full-size game. Pretty much right now what I'm playing and everything that you're seeing was not part of the original, which is fantastic, especially if you're familiar with the old game, because you're getting more story with all these characters. One thing I'm worried about is that people who like role-playing games, especially JRPG games, which are a little bit different with their turn-based battle system than I guess you would consider the traditional Western RPGs that kind of have their roots rooted in like tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons or whatnot. But like people like turn-based games where it just goes back and forth and you get to wait your turn. Some JRPGs are different than others where they have the active time battle system where there's like real-time stuff, but this plays more like an action game with RPG elements. There is a classic mode, but I haven't played it. I've only read about it, so I'm not exactly sure how it works because I wanted to play the new version. And some fans of the others wouldn't be your typical version. This was one of those games that like won over people that might not necessarily play video games. The PlayStation, I think the Atari, the original NES, and then the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo were kind of like systems made just for gamers, where NES kind of had like a casual appeal with Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. Like I remember many times, like it's so weird to think like my parents are probably younger than I am now. We would go to their friend's house and they would just have an NES or an Atari just by default, even though they weren't somebody or they weren't people who played games all the time. And then there weren't as many people that had Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo unless like they had kids or whatever. And then the PlayStation came out. And there was like just certain games that had universal appeal, and I think Final Fantasy did, because like you could just keep on leveling up and getting stronger by fighting battles over and over again. So if you weren't really good, you just spent more time with it and you got better. This might chase some of the older fans away, I think, unless the classic mode is anything like that. But like I said, I don't know, because like I had somebody on Facebook actually ask me about this game, which I was surprised that she even played games. She never shared that she played games anytime I've ever had a conversation with her or whatever, but she's like, oh, that's already out? And I'm like, I wonder if she thinks it's going to be like the turn-based and not more action-oriented, but maybe she plays games now and she didn't back then. I don't know. But, or maybe she did, she never talked about it, or I don't know. Like, I don't know the person, like, incredibly well. Like, I knew her from friends or whatever, but I was just surprised. I was just like, yeah. And I remember, like, before I got a PlayStation, like, I was obsessed with this game, because this was one of the games that they would advertise, like, that and Resident Evil, and I don't know, PlayStation almost felt like, even though later on, I think, when I guess it was more affordable and mainstream, I think it started to be looked at more as a kid system. But when PlayStation first came out, it's like, kind of like the Super Nintendo. At first, the Super Nintendo was kind of looked at as a kid system, and you wanted a Sega Genesis if you wanted the grown-up experience, and then with the PlayStation, you wanted the PlayStation if you were a grown-up, and if you liked kiddie games or you were like more immature. Besides, I mean, it did have its mature games, like even PlayStation people, a lot of PlayStation people, like, maybe you weren't jealous of the Nintendo 64, but like me being a PlayStation, there was nothing comparable on the PlayStation that could be, as far as first person shooters go, that were as awesome as GoldenEye or Perfect Dark on the Nintendo 64. But then the PlayStation, like the Square, I'm gonna say like 500 times to buy myself more time to think of things to say. My anxiety is also off the wall, so if I sound really uptight, that's probably because I am. But yeah, you wanted a PlayStation to play like Resident Evil, the Squaresoft games. Like, now it's Square Enix, but back in the day it was Squaresoft. Originally, Square used to make games exclusively for Nintendo, and then Nintendo decided to still stick with the cartridge format because the Final Fantasy VII was originally supposed to come out on Nintendo's system, and they fucked up by putting it on a cartridge, which would be really expensive. The space was limited, CDs were super cheap to make, and they're like, hey, you wanted to make this dumb decision, we don't want our games to be throttled, so that's why, like, you play Nintendo 64 games, like, they're mostly platformers, and there's not a lot of voice acting and stuff like that, and I don't know, you don't get the multimedia experience. There's not a whole lot of variation and textures and stuff like that because there's only so much data like the PlayStation could hold. Like, it was a miracle when they actually released Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo 64. Like, nobody knew how they could actually fit it on a cartridge, and they had to find creative ways to, like, compress the video, get sound that sounds like CD quality and stuff like that, and lower the texture resolution. But at the same time, the Nintendo 64 was really good at pushing polygons. Like, maybe the PlayStation wouldn't have had as large of an appeal, like, if the Nintendo 64 used CDs, who knows. But anyway, this uses an action-based fighting system. It looks fantastic on the Unreal Engine 4. The particle effects, I don't know how well this is going to look like. I recorded directly from my PlayStation for the last video that said I wasn't really up to recording videos, which ironically, after I made that video, I kind of felt like making videos, which is really strange. But I knew the colors are going to be off because I recorded it while I was playing in HDR, but I didn't care. Like, really, I don't have enough subscribers to have the community mode, so I can't post on my channel or make little community posts. Like, I don't have that option available to me, so I have to make some sort of video and hopefully convey what I want to through the description. So yeah, like, that looked like shit. I don't know whether that's due to compression or it just looks like shit from the PlayStation, but it really didn't show off the quality at all of the graphics that I was personally seeing. I'm hoping this will fare a little bit better. I do notice a decrease, like, from 1080, like, from playing at 1600p. Most games on the PlayStation 4, unless they're super simple, like on PlayStation 4, PS Pro Enhanced Mode runs at 1440p, and, like, then I guess it like does the super sampling or whatever to 4K, but it's not native 4K. I believe that's the term, or whether the checkerboard rendering or whatever, it upscales it to 4K, where this is even closer than that, which is surprising considering it's the engine, because a lot of games that run on Unreal Engine 4 on PlayStation 4, like, usually on base PlayStation, it'll run at like 900p. Xbox One usually gets it worse. It runs at like 720p, and then on, like, PlayStation 4 Pro, it'll, like, run at like 1080p. So the fact that this is Unreal Engine 4 and it's pushing out a good chunk of visual data or whatever, and being able to run at this high resolution is quite impressive. But this is 2 discs worth. Like, I don't know how easy it would be to get now, because I know, like, right before they were launching this game, Square sent out an email saying that they wouldn't be able to get as many copies as they would like, due to the state of the world and the shipping and everything. And to my dismay, like, but it's the responsible thing to do. I switched to using Amazon and everything when things got bad, and I just was like, it'll get here when it'll get here, or whatever. I didn't have to wait too long. I waited 2 days after launch. Some people got it earlier. What Square ended up doing is, or Square Enix, what they ended up doing is shipping it 2 days or like a few days earlier. So that's why there was like so many videos of Final Fantasy. Hey, if you're a content maker, by the way, please stop freaking using spoilers as your fucking thumbnail. It kind of aggravates me a little bit. But with everything going in the world, I've been like really uptight. I hope you guys are handling it fairly well, but you know, like I have good days and bad days, but it was really a struggle. And since the last 2 weeks, I've finally been able to calm down enough to play video games. Like slowly but surely, I recently just finished the Resident Evil 3 remake, which I adore. Like I was gonna record that, but I just decided to record 2 videos today after playing this game. Like I'm further than when I recorded. I don't want to record too far into the game, but it's 2 discs worth. So if you're able to get this physically, please be safe, and the responsible thing to do would be get it sent to your house. But with PlayStation throttling their times, like you have to be patient. Like I know not everybody's internet's the best even when things are good. This is a 100 gig game. It's 2 Blu-ray discs. So if you think that you're only getting like a small part, like a small game for $60, you would be incorrect in thinking that, because it's expanding the story. Because I honestly thought that like the action-based system, I was like wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong. I thought the action-based system was going to make the game go by quicker, and I thought that I would breeze through it and feel unfulfilled and then have to wait like 2 weeks. I haven't finished the game, but this is still fairly early on, and it's just expanded every little thing. Like something that would take 5 minutes in the original is like a whole like hour-long sequence in like the remake. It's awesome, and I love it. And there's like sorry, I was like thinking about the next thing to say while I was talking about this. Welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Anyway, what's cool is there's like minor characters or whatever, like, and if something happened to them, you wouldn't really feel bad. Where this is really fleshing out minor characters you really didn't think much about, and you really needed that dialogue. And like back on the original game, nothing was voice acted either, so you would just read like the text and everything, and in order to care or like a character, you would really need that dialogue. And the characters were super simplified, especially when you're not in battle mode. They're even more simplified, where they're like a handful of like triangles and stuff like that. They look like Lego people. And like the battle scene, like for back in the day, it was impressive, but it was still fairly limited, even compared to like Final Fantasy 8 and 9, which were also available on the PlayStation 1. Like these were graphical benchmarks, and every time Square came out with a new RPG on the PlayStation 1, they like topped themselves. You're like, how is this even possible? Like on this system. Like what was really cool, even though Final Fantasy 8 isn't my favorite Final Fantasy, I still really respect it and think it's awesome, and I really want to get into the one I downloaded on PlayStation 4. I really wish they would have came out with it on disc, but that one actually had like full motion video and stuff playing in the background with like high res character models. And the PlayStation version of this, like, it was just static background. So to see this in 3D with like lighting and HDR and a high resolution, or even 1080p, it doesn't look as good. Like I almost feel like there's like some sort of like anti-aliasing that isn't in the base PlayStation or the original PlayStation, because the hair looks a little bit pixelated when I was playing it in 1080p, where everything was kind of like smoothed out a little bit. I don't know. I just absolutely love this so far, and they're adding all these sequences and everything, and I love the tactics, and it's just really cool. And the little particle effects from the sword, I did not expect this quality coming from the Unreal Engine at all. Like when they announced that this was on the Unreal Engine, I was like, oh, it's gonna be so claustrophobic if they want any kind of detail or whatever. Like really the only game that truly impressed me that was running on Unreal Engine 4 on the PlayStation 4 was probably Hellblade. But like there's fun games that run on this engine, but like really the only other games of this generation, and I'm not like the hugest fan of the franchise. I like it, it's fun, I have a good time playing it. Wouldn't call myself a fanboy. When they come out with a new game, I usually get it, or at least want to try it out. Or like the Gears of War games, and I've only played them on the Xbox One X, which is a little bit more powerful than the PlayStation 4 Pro, so I don't know. Plus, like even though the Coalition like developed the game, like they're really close with Epic, who I believe it's Epic Games, who ironically makes the overly simplified graphics of Fortnite. They're the ones that developed the Unreal Engine 4, so I'm really like blown away by the quality of graphics with this game. So back to the real world. So how are you guys doing during this? I hope you're all doing well. I had like 2 weeks where like I was, and it still happens on and off, but not as much, where like I'm just antsy, I can't stay still, like I'm stressing, like taking the dog out all the time is like it's like a horror show. And it's like living in the city, you don't want to be approached by people. Unfortunately, there's a lot of homeless people in this field. It sounds awful, but you also have to care about your own safety, and they might not be the cleanest because these are the people before the virus happened. They were digging in trash cans. So like, where are they going to be able to wash their hands like every time they're exposed to something? And they could be victims of circumstance. Some of the people are like mentally ill. Everybody has a story, like, and all of us can be in that situation. We don't play our cards right, you know. Some people might have a bad hand of cards, and shit happens. Or, you know, some people are mentally ill, or they're addicted to substances and all this other stuff. So extraordinarily lucky to have a roof over my head during this horrible time, but it's just like, it's scary going out. Like, people litter more. Younger people are even at my age, like they just hear like it's an old person's disease. But if you look at the statistics, like the people that are getting it are like almost half of them are like in their 20s to 30s to maybe 40s. I don't know what the wide range is, but I know people my age they're dying, and I think part of that's from selfishly going to the beach and stuff like that, and they could just be carriers. But what they're finding out is they actually don't know the combination. You have to have like, there's something inside some people that they just get deathly ill. Like, I think older people are more susceptible to it just because they're older, but you're not out of it if you're young, because you don't know if you have like that perfect storm where like you're susceptible and it could hurt you, because some people don't get any symptoms, and then some people that are perfectly healthy that don't have underlying medical conditions have died. Like, it's really creepy and scary, and people aren't taking it seriously. Like I went to go take my dog out in the back, which is really stressful, as I said earlier, and it's like, I like look above, like behind my apartments there's like a school, and there's like a bunch of people. They're all close together, they don't know each other, and their dogs are sniffing each other, and I'm like a nervous wreck. I'm like, because I see one of their dogs running around the gate to go visit my dog. Luckily their dog listened and stopped, But it's just like, oh, this sucks. And then, you know, there's another issue going on. I understand why the ABC store has become like an essential service. I think it's because people who, I don't know how much any of you know about alcohol abuse, but alcohol is one of the drugs that actually can kill you with withdrawal. As terrible as like heroin and everything is, and you'll feel like you want to die with heroin withdrawals. Sorry, I have to drink, like I'm coughing because I just had a cup of coffee and I'm talking, and it's a diuretic. It just dries your throat out and everything. And I have acid reflux, which is awesome to drink coffee, but you know, you're getting a video, so that's fun. At least I'm not like choking like I was like with a really bad reflux. I've tried to ease up on certain things that cause it, so I'm not hacking every time I'm trying to have a sentence, so I apologize about that. But yeah, alcohol withdrawal is one of the withdrawals that if it's bad enough, like it can actually kill you. That doesn't really happen with anything except really alcohol and benzodiazepines. So it's like an essential service. You might have liquor stores where you are where it's not government regulated. We have ABC stores, which it's government regulated, so it gives money to the government, plus it keeps people out of the hospital. But you know, alcoholics and stuff like that, they don't give a like when they're fucked up, they don't give a shit about anybody or anything, you know. And unfortunately, I have that going on in my family that makes me really concerned about some people. I won't say who or whatever, but it's just, it really sucks because like when they're in that state and they can't get anybody to help them and they're by themselves or whatever, like they do stupid shit and person's like stuck in the house and they're not being clean, they're not washing their hands, they don't give a shit, they only care about themselves and when's the next drink gonna be, and it's really scary, and they're going to the store and everything to get the next drink, and they're putting everybody at risk, and it sucks because there's nothing you can do about it except hope for the best. And it's just, this is just a fucking awful time, and I hope it gets better. Like, and then work, it's like you can't look for work because there's nowhere to go unless you're looking for like essential business or whatever. And like some of the medications I'm on, like lower, supposedly, allegedly, I mean, it hasn't been proven, but I'm worried that some of the medication I'm on like puts me somewhat at risk of having a compromised immune system. I'm in my mid-30s, so I guess I'm not terribly too old or whatever where it would normally affect people, but I still gotta keep it in mind. Like, I don't want the shit even if it's a mild case. Like, I don't want to be exposed to it, not have any symptoms, and like infect like people I care about and shit like that. And sometimes it's not the isolation, it's like the fear of the unknown that's like really hard. So then when you want to go and try to relax and play video games and you try not to think about this stuff, it's really tough because even at a subconscious level you're like being bothered. Like, you'll find yourself like hyperventilating or stuff like that. Well, I find myself doing this because I have anxiety issues, or like all of a sudden you'll get really anxious, or you're like in fight or flight mode, and until you come back down to earth, you're like freaking out like you're gonna die or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I just had a panic attack because it just went away and it hasn't bothered me for 2 days, and then I tried to snap, there we go, and pops out of nowhere, and it like freaks you out, and as much as I value my alone time, like, this is like the time where, like, it's good to have people in your life and hobbies and things that you enjoy. And yeah, that's been something I'm struggling with. And then having to go to the grocery store because all the delivery places are, because nobody wants to go to the store, are like so backed up. Like, you have to go to the store, and that sucks. Because again, like, I mean, I respect the people at the grocery store working it, but you can tell, like, even like some of the workers at some of these essential places, either they just said fuck it, I'm gonna get sick no matter what, or they think that they're younger and they don't care. Some people care more than others. You'll see some people with masks and gloves on, and then you'll see somebody checking out somebody that has absolutely nothing, even though the supplies are like right in front of them or whatever. Like, I went through the line the other day and I had like a mask on, gloves, a hat, glasses, everything. And somebody looked at me like I was like fucking overboard, and I was like, are you kidding? Like, I don't even, like, what if you have it in your system and you're contagious and you don't know about it? You don't want to fucking spread that shit, even if I don't get it that bad. It's just scary and uncertain. It's just, I worry about everybody, and it's just, I don't know. You really gotta find like things that make you happy, and it's hard. I struggle. I'm so thankful that I've collected games and movies and stuff like that. I mean, it isn't the easiest to watch, but maybe part of me is getting used to this not normal being normal. Like, this is now the status quo, and maybe that's why it eased up. But I've been able to play video games and watch things a bit more. I've been using CBD oil, which I've always had. Like, I stopped using it for a while. Just, I don't know, I just kind of forgot about it. I was like, whatever, like, if I was functioning without it, like, wasn't thinking about it or whatever. It's not really like smoking or something that you can get addicted to, but that has actually been extraordinarily helpful. It's not a cure-all, but if you're able to use some of that and you suffer from panic attacks and it's legal like where you are, I think it's legal in every state now. I mean, it doesn't have like THC or anything in it. Like, it's just pure, like, but you have to like get the decent one. You don't want to get like some weird one or whatever. I definitely recommend, like, it might be a little bit more expensive, like the Koi brand, but if you're able to get that, you actually can get it for your dogs too, which has been amazing. Like, my dog has like hip problems, and I got her CBD dog treats, and they've actually, like, within an hour, she like got a good nap. Like, it kind of made her like a little bit tired at first, and then she woke up. She's having joint issues, and she woke up and she was like walking fine and great, and it was like a miracle. But they're like $30 dog treats, but they were amazing and worth it. Like, if like the last few years of her life are like comfortable and not, and I feel bad I can't take her out. I'm all over the place with this. There's so many like things. It's one of the reasons why I was reluctant to make a video of that, and I was scared I was gonna have like a hyperventilation thing going on. But CBD oil hasn't fixed it every time, but it's been a useful tool. It's made things easier to cope with, which otherwise would have been more difficult. And if that's something that you can use and you struggle with anxiety, I would definitely recommend that. Sometimes ASMR videos are helpful too, but I know a lot of people think they're weird, and you really need the right kind of person. But like, I would definitely recommend the CBD oil, and then just playing a game or watching a movie. Sometimes playing a game is good, but I think the hardest part about playing a game is initially getting into the game. Like, I was playing Resident Evil 3, like, almost in the fetal position at first, but then when my focus went into the game, I was like playing it for like an hour, and I didn't start having issues with anxiety until I was like, hey, my breathing went back to normal and I feel fine and nothing happened. And also I was like, not that bad or whatever. It's more like you're breathing but you don't feel like your breathing's worked, so then you breathe more to try to make it feel work. Like, I don't know, if you don't have panic attacks, you don't understand. I know it's panic attacks because I had them a long time ago, really bad, like I'm having them now. I never stopped having panic attacks, but as I've gotten older dealing with anxiety, I've learned a little bit how to manage them and know what I'm dealing with them, unless they're really bad, which they've been now. And I don't know, there's other stuff that went on in my life that has made it difficult before the world got the way it was, that was just like icing on an already shit flavored cupcake. So like, I started having anxiety even before, panic attacks really bad even before this started, like, and it just hit me just like that. Like, I was just sitting down and then all of a sudden it like almost like felt like I knew a meteor was gonna hit the house, kind of like anxiety for no reason, and it was really upsetting and really devastating. And then everything happened with this, and then I think that's where the breathing stuff started, because that, and you think about breathing more because like what's going on is respiratory related, so it freaks you out. But like, getting into the game was hard, but then once I started playing, and I guess it has to be a game that you really like, a really game that like really absorbs you, and like you kind of like have more of an out of body experience where you feel like, this sounds stupid, but you're in the game or in the movie where you're more focused on that than what's going on around you. And those are the kind of best games to play, because then you realize, oh, I'm not freaking out anymore, everything's fine, you know. And really, that's also a good indicator that you're dealing with anxiety and you're not actually dying. Congratulations. But this game is awesome. I'm curious what people who've never played Final Fantasy, it's awesome in my opinion. I haven't finished it so far, but I can't see it going to shit. Like, and I love how much they added to it. I have a feeling most people that are at least somewhat antiquated with action games and like Final Fantasy VII will really like this game, but I'm curious what people who never played a Final Fantasy game would think about this game. And this was like the first Final Fantasy game that had like the future aesthetic. They adopted for a little bit with Final Fantasy VIII. They quit with 9, and then they kind of went back to it with 10, and then 13, and I guess 14's kind of futuristic too. It's like a hybrid. I don't know. And then the other ones I didn't mention were kind of more like medieval fantasy. But I hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you find things that make you happy and keep you occupied. And I will talk to you on the next video. Thank you so much. Take care and stay safe. Bye.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.